Gunshots shattered the silence of Sable Ridge. 3 bodies lay sprawled across the frozen ground, their blood seeping into the earth around a solitary grave marker. Jackson Clay stood motionless, his smoking Colt Army revolver hanging at his side, face half hidden beneath the shadow of his worn cavalry hat. 6'5" of solid muscle and scar tissue, he towered over the fallen bounty hunters who'd tracked him to this sacred place. One man still drew ragged breaths, staring up at Jackson with disbelief in his dying eyes. "They said you was dead at Shiloh," the man wheezed, blood bubbling at his lips. Jackson's weathered face remained as still as carved granite. They were half right. The final gunshot echoed across the valley as Jackson holstered his weapon, turned his back on the dead, and disappeared into the thick Montana fog. The legend of the Wall Clay, the artillery captain who'd commanded the Union's 4th Artillery with deadly precision, had long been buried. But beneath the quiet exterior of the mountain recluse lived a man who'd lost everything except his skill with a gun. The cabin stood on the eastern ridge, its weathered timbers leaning slightly westward like a tired sentinel. Jackson had built it with his bare hands after the war, each beam and plank a testament to a craftsman's touch. Inside, a single chair faced the fireplace, positioned to avoid looking at the empty spaces where a family should be. The walls held no photographs, only weapons, a Henry rifle above the mantel, a shotgun beside the door, and a cavalry saber mounted on a pegged rack. The townsfolk of Sable Ridge rarely saw Jackson Clay. He'd appear without warning at the general store, purchase supplies with exact change and fewer words, then vanish back into the wilderness. Some claimed he was haunted, others said he was dangerous. All kept their distance, respecting both his privacy and the deadly reputation that followed him like a shadow. That October morning, the hunting trip wasn't meant to change anything. Jackson tracked a 6-point buck through the pines, his footfalls silent as death on the forest floor. The sound that stopped him wasn't animal, it was human, a child's desperate cry carried on the wind. He found the abandoned well near the old Turner homestead. Peering down into the darkness, Jackson saw her, a small girl with dirt-streaked cheeks and terrified eyes, clinging to the jagged stone walls 12 feet below. "Hold on," he commanded, voice rough from disuse. Working quickly, he fashioned a rope from his saddlebag, creating a secure loop. The girl's hands trembled as she grabbed it. Jackson's massive forearms strained as he pulled, muscles tightening beneath his coat. When she slipped halfway up, her scream pierced him like a knife. He held fast, his jaw clenched with determination. Finally, he lifted her free, setting her gently on solid ground. For a long moment, they regarded each other in silence. She couldn't have been more than 7, with tangled brown curls and a torn dress. Despite her ordeal, she studied him with unnerving intensity. "You need a wife," she said suddenly, her voice small but clear as a bell. "And I need a dad." Something cracked inside Jackson's chest. A hairline fracture in walls built over a decade of solitude. His eyes, weathered and dry from years in the harsh elements, grew wet. For the first time since he'd buried his family, it wasn't the wind that made them so. Her name was Sophie Raines. Her mother, Emily, was waiting in Sable Ridge, frantic with worry. Jackson delivered the child to the edge of town, uncomfortable with the gratitude in Emily's eyes. She was young, perhaps 28, though hardship had carved premature lines around her mouth. There was something in her posture, a vigilance in her quick glances over one shoulder that Jackson recognized all too well. She was running from something. "Thank you for saving her," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know how to repay you." "No need," Jackson replied, already turning to leave. That's when he spotted the newspaper on a nearby barrel. War criminal Travis Jennings still at large, with a smaller headline below. Key witness disappeared after testimony. There was a sketch of Emily beside the article. Jackson's blood ran cold. He knew Travis Jennings, the former Confederate lieutenant whose brutality had become legendary during the war. The man who'd ordered the execution of unarmed prisoners at Shiloh, the man whose militia had burned Jackson's home with his wife and daughter inside. As Jackson rode back toward his cabin that evening, he took a different route, circling behind the cheap lodging house where Emily and Sophie were staying. In the shadows across the street, 4 men watched the building. Their leader, tall and broad-shouldered with a distinctive scar across his throat, was unmistakable. Travis Jennings had found his witness. Jackson moved silently through the night, approaching the outlaws' camp a mile outside town. Hidden behind a boulder, he overheard their plans. They would take the woman and child at dawn, before the town awoke. Travis's voice dripped with obsession when he spoke of Emily. "She belongs to me," he snarled to his men. "War spoils. Her husband died under my command, and she's mine by right." As Jackson slipped away, he found something that chilled him more than the night air. A wanted poster with his own face, the words, "The Ghost of Shiloh," scrawled across it in Travis's handwriting. The past had found them both. The monthly market in Sable Ridge drew traders and families from outlying homesteads. Tables lined the dusty Main Street, goods displayed under the October Sunday. Emily Raines stood behind a small booth of herbal remedies and bandages, her training as a field nurse providing their meager income. Sophie sat nearby on a wooden stool, drawing patterns in the dirt with a stick. Travis Jennings appeared without warning, parting the crowd like Moses at the Red Sea. 2 men flanked him, hands resting casually on holstered pistols. His sunburnt face bore a twisted grin beneath his wide-brimmed hat. "Well now," he drawled, voice sweet as poisoned honey. "Ain't this a pretty sight?" Emily's body tensed, one hand instinctively reaching for Sophie. "I told you to leave us alone," she said, her voice steadier than her trembling hands. "You told me lots of things," Travis replied, stepping closer. "None of them matter now." Sophie bolted suddenly, running not toward her mother, but across the marketplace. Travis turned, following her movement, then froze when he saw her destination. Jackson Clay stood by the leather goods stall, examining a bridle. He looked up just as Sophie collided with his leg, hiding behind him. Travis's hand twitched toward his gun, then stilled as Jackson straightened to his full height, physically blocking the child from view. The crowd fell silent, sensing the deadly current between the 2 men. "Heard you were the Wall Clay," Travis called out, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "Wonder if you still stand as strong against bullets as you used to?" Jackson's voice was low but carried across the hushed marketplace. "Heard you only shoot unarmed men. Care to try your luck with someone who shoots back?" Travis's face darkened, eyes flicking to his outnumbered men, then to the watching townspeople. His hand dropped away from his weapon. "This ain't over," he spat, backing away. "She's still mine. You can't protect them forever." "I don't need forever," Jackson replied. "Just long enough to put you in the ground." The blacksmith, Jed Harlon, approached after Travis departed. His squint widened with recognition as he studied Jackson's face. "I know you," he said loudly. "You wore blue at Gettysburg. Captain Jackson Clay of the 4th Artillery." The words rippled through the remaining crowd. Union Blue. The war had ended 12 years ago, but in territories like Montana, populated by those fleeing its aftermath, old divisions still festered beneath the surface. Emily's face drained of color. That evening, she climbed the trail to Jackson's cabin alone, fury and confusion driving her forward. "You fought for the North," she accused, standing rigid on his porch. Jackson nodded once. "My husband died at Spotsylvania with a gray coat on his back," she continued, voice breaking. "Shot through the lung, choked to death on his own blood." Without speaking, Jackson disappeared inside his cabin, returning moments later with a small wooden box. Inside lay a tarnished Union officer's badge beside a folded letter, its edges worn from countless readings. "My wife's last words," he explained simply. Emily unfolded the fragile paper, reading the faded handwriting. "My dearest Jack, if you read this, I am gone. Please don't find the men who did this. Don't let vengeance claim you. I want you to live, my love. Live long enough to remember joy, to laugh again, to love again. Your heart remains soft as moonlight, no matter how much blood it has seen." Emily's hands trembled as she refolded the letter. When she looked up, she saw past the hardened exterior to the broken man beneath. Travis Jennings ordered the execution of wounded soldiers, both blue and gray, she said quietly. I was a field nurse. I saw him give the command. When I testified, he swore he'd find me. Said I belonged to him as spoils of war since my husband died under his command. Jackson's jaw tightened. He doesn't stop. He won't stop. Then we make him stop, Emily replied, a steel entering her voice that matched his own. Over the following days, Jackson taught Emily how to shoot, how to set traps, how to survive. Sophie watched from the porch steps, absorbing every movement, every lesson. At night, when Emily thought her daughter asleep, Jackson would tell Sophie stories about his own daughter, June, who had loved horses and singing lullabies. Did she know you loved her? Sophie asked one evening. Every day, Jackson answered, his voice rough with emotion. Told her every day. From the shadows of the doorway, Emily watched, her heart softening toward this mountain of a man who cradled such tenderness amid his strength. Their preparation was interrupted when Jackson discovered betrayal within the town. Deputy Williams, a man trusted to uphold the law, was feeding information to Travis. When confronted in a darkened alley, Williams broke down, confessing that Travis had taken his family hostage. I had no choice, he pleaded. He's got 15 men now, former soldiers, killers, all of them. They're coming tomorrow night. The attack came as predicted. Travis and 4 men approached the cabin under cover of darkness, unaware that Jackson had prepared for them. The first man triggered a tripwire, plunging into a concealed pit. Another received a spray of buckshot from a rigged shotgun when he stepped on a pressure plate. Travis and his remaining men opened fire on the cabin, bullets splintering through wood. Inside, Jackson ushered Emily and Sophie through a trapdoor beneath the rug, into a narrow tunnel that led to the hillside. As they escaped, a lantern overturned, flames quickly consuming the dry timber walls. Run, Jackson commanded, pushing them ahead as he turned to provide covering fire. A bullet caught him in the shoulder as he backed into the tunnel. By the time they emerged 100 yards downhill, the cabin was engulfed in flames against the night sky, casting Travis's furious silhouette in hellish light. In a hidden cave 3 miles away, Emily used her nursing skills to extract the bullet from Jackson's shoulder. Sophie gathered wild yarrow and plantain leaves as Emily had taught her, helping to make a poultice for the wound. Jackson's fever raged through the night. In his delirium, he called for his wife Sarah, reaching toward emptiness. When clarity finally returned, he found Emily beside him, her hand cool against his forehead. I thought I'd forgotten what it felt like, he whispered. What felt like? She asked. To have someone care if I live or die. As Jackson recovered, they formulated a plan to take the fight to Travis rather than waiting for the next attack. Mayor Calloway, another veteran who'd served with Jackson at Gettysburg, offered secret support, having harbored suspicions about Travis since his arrival. The war's been over 12 years, Calloway said, but men like Jennings keep fighting it in their heads. He's got half the county terrified. Their planning halted abruptly when Sophie disappeared. She'd gone to collect water from a nearby stream and never returned. In her place, they found a message carved into a tree, a life for a life. Clay knows where. Emily collapsed in panic, ready to surrender herself to save her daughter. Jackson caught her arms, his grip firm but gentle. I won't lose another child, he promised, his voice dropping to a register that brooked no argument. We'll get her back. As they prepared to infiltrate the town, an unexpected ally appeared. 3 former Confederate soldiers who'd served under Sophie's father, Samuel Raines. Initially suspicious of Jackson's Union background, they listened as Emily described Travis's war crimes against soldiers from both sides. Jennings dishonored the Gray. Their leader, a weathered sergeant named Cooper, declared, "War's over anyway. Time justice was served, no matter what colors we wore." The plan formed quickly. Travis was holding Sophie in the abandoned church at the edge of town, surrounded by his men. A frontal assault would be suicide, but Jackson had never relied on conventional tactics. Under cover of a gathering storm, Jackson positioned Cooper's men at strategic points around the church. Emily, despite protest, insisted on participating. Her daughter's life was at stake, and she'd learned to shoot with remarkable accuracy. Jackson approached alone, deliberately visible. Travis's men spotted him immediately. "Clay's here," one shouted, raising his rifle. "Hold your fire," Travis commanded, emerging onto the church steps with Sophie held firmly by his side. "I want him to see this." "Let the girl go, Travis," Jackson called, stopping 30 paces away. "Your quarrel's with me." "My quarrel's with everyone who stood in my way," Travis replied, tightening his grip on Sophie's arm until she whimpered. The witness, the ghost of Shiloh, both in one tidy package. Lightning fractured the sky, thunder rolling across the valley as rain began to fall. "You couldn't save your own family, Clay," Travis taunted. "What makes you think you can save hers?" Jackson's response was measured, deliberate, "Because I'm not alone." On his signal, Cooper's men opened fire from concealed positions, creating chaos among Travis's outlaws. Emily's first shot struck the man guarding the church door. In the confusion, Sophie broke free, running toward a nearby water trough for cover. Travis and Jackson faced each other in the muddy street as gunfire erupted around them. Both men drew, fired, and found their marks. Travis took a bullet to his thigh. Jackson caught one in his side. Staggering but determined, they continued their deadly dance through the downpour, exchanging shots that splintered wood and shattered glass. When Travis's gun clicked empty, he dove behind a wagon, emerging with a Bowie knife. "You should have stayed dead, Clay," he shouted over the storm. Jackson's final bullet had been spent. Dropping his useless revolver, he drew the cavalry saber from his back, the same blade he'd carried at Shiloh. They clashed in the center of the street, steel meeting, steel as lightning illuminated their struggle. Travis fought with the desperate fury of a cornered animal. Jackson moved with the grim determination of a man with nothing left to lose, until Sophie's scream cut through the chaos. Travis had maneuvered them near her hiding place. Seeing his opportunity, he lunged toward the child. "No!" Jackson roared, driving his body between them. Travis's knife found its mark in Jackson's shoulder, but the moment's distraction was fatal. Jackson's saber thrust forward, burying itself in Travis's chest. As Travis fell to his knees in the mud, blood mixing with rainwater, his face contorted with bitter recognition. "I ordered them to burn your home," he confessed, blood bubbling at his lips. "Told them your family harbored deserters. Guess I'll see them all in hell now." Jackson stood over him, rain washing blood from both men. "I've lived in hell long enough, Travis. Now I choose to live." Spring arrived in the valley. Green shoots emerged from blackened earth around the foundation of Jackson's cabin. Nearby, a new structure rose, larger, stronger, with a wide porch facing the sunrise. Jackson worked from dawn till dusk, driven by a sense of purpose long absent from his life. Emily established a small infirmary in town, her nursing skills finally appreciated. Sophie tended a small herd of yearling horses, singing to them as she brushed their coats, just as June once had. Inside the new cabin, Jackson placed the old photograph of his first family on the mantle. Beside it, he added a new tintype, himself, Emily, and Sophie standing before their home, faces solemn but eyes bright with possibility. "June would want us to be happy," he told Emily one evening as they watched Sophie with the horses. "Is that what we are?" Emily asked softly. "Happy?" Jackson considered the word, tasting it like unfamiliar food. "Getting there," he decided, "one day at a time." As sunset painted the mountains gold, Jackson took Emily's hand, leading her to the edge of the property where wildflowers had begun to bloom. "I can build walls," he said, his voice steady despite the uncharacteristic words. "But I need you to make it a home. Will you?" Emily's answer came not in words but in the way she laced her fingers through his. Two survivors finding strength in each other's scars. From the porch, Sophie watched them with a satisfied smile. She'd known from the moment he pulled her from the well, this giant of a man needed a family as badly as they needed him. 3 riders crossed the open meadow as the day's last light faded. A man, a woman, and a child, side by side against the vast Montana sky. Their laughter rose with the dust behind them as they disappeared into the horizon, leaving behind the shadows of the past. In the savage lands of the American West, justice sometimes came from the barrel of a gun, but true peace came from the strength to forgive and the courage to love again. Jackson Clay wasn't just the wall on the battlefield, he had become a shield for his new family, standing firm against both the ghosts of the past and the threats of the present. They called him the Ghost of Sable Valley, but ghosts don't build homes or raise children or wake each morning with gratitude. And as the legend of the fearsome Captain Clay faded into fireside tales, the story of Jackson, Emily, and Sophie was just beginning. Not a tale of war, but of the peace that follows for those brave enough to claim it.